Hey guys, I'm Gary, and this is your exclusive movie review of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. So, back before this film's release, I was watching something in the theater, can't remember what that was, and the trailer for Texas Chainsaw was attached to it. If you've ever watched the trailer, it's pretty intense. The music, the cinematography, the actors look genuinely fearful of a man chasing them with a chainsaw. I was already hooked and was anticipated to watch it. Then the flashbulb sound effect was heard, and I remember people in the theater were going nuts, realizing just by the sound that it was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I was like, what is this? I researched it and saw that it was a remake of a movie made in the 1970s. I quickly rented it and watched it with my cousin. I remember thinking, as bad as this film was technology-wise and acting-wise, it was still pretty terrifying. The concept, the idea of it, the what if of it was pretty scary. And the annoying scream the main girl made at the ending had to be at least 5 minutes continuous. Even that was like, holy shit. I would not want to be there right now as one of the Hewitts listening to this annoying sound. Now, I watched the sequels later too, and the films did get worse and worse as they went on. Now, the remake is produced by Michael Bay, the guy who at the time was only known for Bad Boys, The Rock, Armageddon, and Pearl Harbor. And you know that the thought of an epic action director behind a horror film, that's great with visuals, sounded great on paper. And while watching the Texas Chainsaw remake, every shot had an intense, epic tone to it that really resonated with me and gave me an experience of wow. And I'll I'll admit, at the time I viewed this film in the theaters, I was in awe of how epically terrified the film actually looked. The story behind the remake and the original, though, especially the ending, are completely different. It's pretty typical about a group of 20 somethings on a road trip that come across a dead hitchhiker and stick around to inform the local authorities. And the structure of the film is pretty routine, as the local townsfolk separate the five teens so Leatherface can pick them off one by one. Some parts of the film are better in small parts than as a whole. The scene in which they come to a house that has no road looks like a rundown haunted dollhouse, one of those ones that kind of separate in the middle. But the angles and the shots surrounding these scenes and the acting are noticeably good. The quick shot with Leatherface clubbing one of the main cast, dragging him behind a sliding door and slamming it behind himself, seeing that and how monstrous he looks is horrifying. As the chase begins with characters and the chainsaw maniac, the buildup of it is gone and the intensity really loosens up, and it almost becomes somewhat silly. And compared to the chase scenes in the original TCM to the remake, there's a difference in tone definitely. But how he chases his victims down is almost somewhat the same. Leatherface swings his chainsaw back and forth as if he can't control it, with a slight little dance. Now, why couldn't they just learn from a movie like Dawn of the Dead remake and have him run aggressively? The audience knows that these teens are dead anyways. And Leatherface does look more heavy set in the remake, so I guess you could use that as an excuse. But why the dance? And I rewatched this with my son, and my son was just couldn't fathom why some of these characters made certain decisions in where they ran and hid. Characters ran and hid in buildings, trapping themselves in closets and corners. He's got a point. Most of these slasher films have ridiculously dumb characters that make stupid choices, but I'm sure you know that. And in an instant, though, in a fight or flight situation, How much of an inexperienced young adult going to know about how to survive a chainsaw wielding maniac? There aren't that many horror films in this film setting of 1974, I would think, nor was there articles of list of ways to survive killers on the World Wide Web. I was trying to explain my son about that. But my first instinct might be to stay in the woods. There are easy weapons to make in the woods, and you can easily trap or lose your killer instead of running around on their property where they might know every inch of. One character the film should have explored more, I think, was Arlie Ermey's Sheriff Hoyt, an uneducated hillbilly sheriff with a fetish for groping dead bodies. The film has a couple good entry moments for him, though, the sadistic character that he is, but they come and go as they're needed. This film and a lot of the other Chainsaw franchise does the exact same thing. It comes with a genre. I guess who wants a 2-hour Chainsaw movie? I do. If you put more thought and effort into the story and the characters, why not, right? Lastly, near the ending, when a couple of these characters are trapped in the basement, some of the detail that went into making it dark and brooding, busy with butcher equipment, bones, skin and limbs in places, given all these details, it might look like they're cannibals. And that's a clear assumption in the original films. But here, they don't really imply much of that. It's kind of disappointing. Basically, it's about a family that feels bad for how common folk treated their son, Thomas Hewitt, aka the Leatherface, and so they let him butcher the hell out of passerbyers. The filmmakers went all out to make this film look great. The tone, the look, the music, the intensity for the first half of the film were all incredible, but it really fell damn flat for the last half hour. Visually, though, I'd have to recommend this. Thanks for watching, and please share if you agree or disagree. Put a comment down below me.